Hello, and welcome to Please Me. Last week, Eve interviewed Linda Ugolo for one of the most honest and forthcoming episodes on Please Me. She talked about her experience of going from a lackluster sex life to finding renewed new passion in her marriage. This podcast is intended for mature audiences. Eve is a licensed sexual health physical therapist on a mission to destigmatize conversations about sex. Please sit back and surrender to the pleasure of Please Me. Who's looking for a sexy date? SDC.com is the premier ethically non-monogamous dating site that also houses a wealth of information regarding sexuality and sexual health. Join the Please Me Health Collective on SDC.com and listen to Eve's free live webinars. Use code 37340 for a free trial membership. Maybe you are in the market for some sexy toys to add some spice to the bedroom. Check out the Organic Lovin' link for the best online store for sex toys, lubes, and more.
It really starts with a feeling. Often it's about how you want to feel in your body and not how you want other people to see you or experience you, but how you want to experience you. And that can be sexual, that can be bold, that can be powerful, that can be soft. Whatever it is that you want to feel, you can start from that place and craft an experience around that and then capture it.
Are you suffering from erectile dysfunction in silence? Are you embarrassed by premature ejaculation? Is it hard to get an erection that is long enough for penetration or that lasts long enough to satisfy your partner and yourself? Just know that you are not alone and that 20% of men suffer from erectile dysfunction in their 20s, and it goes up 10% per decade. So 50% of men in their 50s will have some form of erectile dysfunction. My name is Eve Hall, a licensed physical therapist who treats conditions such as erectile dysfunction and other sexual health conditions. I'm here to tell you that there is a solution to erectile dysfunction, and I offer the gold standard in my practice called Inspire Health Physical Therapy and Wellness. I have a full protocol to get your sexy back, so know that I am here to help. Just know that there is no shame in having any sexual health condition, including erectile dysfunction. If that is you, be sure to reach me on SDC.com and leave me a message there, or reach me on pleaseme.online to listen to my podcasts, or to leave me a message and book an appointment today. Hello, and welcome to Please Me, the podcast that aims to destigmatize conversations about sex by turning the sheets into our classroom. Today, I am interviewing the most amazing woman, and I am so excited to introduce you to her. Her name is Melissa Uschenko, and she is a self-portrait photographer, and she specializes in boudoir self-portraits. And I am so excited to talk to you about this. I have seen a lot of boudoir portraits, and I think they are just incredible. And I just can't wait to explore this topic with you. I've always actually wanted to get pics like that, but I feel, I don't know, in front of a camera with someone else being there, it's a little bit different because I do a lot of selfies and nobody's in the room with me. Somebody else being there and finding the right angles and all of that, I'm sure is really fun. Tell me what brought you to this career path.
I used to take photographs of other people. I did retreat and brand photography. And then the pandemic hit and I was at a loss for what to even do with my camera, and call it like a moment of divine inspiration, because I woke up one morning and just thought I need to take a self-portrait. Had not taken self-portraits before that moment, but decided I needed to do it then. And that kind of just kickstarted something. The first ones were just not good, but that's how you start things. And after that, I just had this I would just have this vision of what I wanted to create for the next picture. And it just snowballed from there. And I knew that it was something beyond just snapping a selfie, which is still great and still fun. But for me, it felt so significant to make this an actual practice of like self-reflection. And it's like meditation and journaling, but in a visual format.
Okay. And do you mix it with journaling? Do you take pictures and then add words to it, or do you do this? How do you document yourself?
Yeah.
Let's start there, because I know you have lots of clients and all of that, and we'll get into that in a minute. But I want to know about you.
So for my own process, I don't really mix it with words. Like I might be journaling anyway in my life. And then I also do the self portrait around events or feelings or moods. But usually I will just take the photos and let them speak for themselves. And I think it's really powerful to wait a little bit before you actually look back on the photo because you have that interesting, like, third party perspective of your own experience that you created for yourself. So it's a good way to reflect on what you were feeling and experiencing in the moment of capturing the self portrait.
I love that idea that you wait to look at it, because we're so self critical. I know I am. And
Mhm.
I always am looking for that, what I call the money shot. You know what I mean? Like the one that I look the best in. That's the one that I want to look at. And the rest just get boom deleted. But if you're documenting an experience and you take, I don't know, 10 pictures of that same experience, and each one is going to be different, and you don't look at it initially and self criticize, but you go back and look at it later and see the experience itself happening. I think that is really a cool way to do it. I'd never really considered that. I always just look immediately and start deleting.
I do look immediately, but I don't delete immediately.
I,
Yeah, so there are some photos where I'll have a self-portrait session and think nothing good came out of that. And then I'll just look and think, "Oh, actually this was really good," and I'll be excited to share it. And sharing for me is part of the process. Not everybody will want to share their photos, but I do. And then even months later, or I've looked back at sessions I've done like 1 or 2 years ago, I find another photo that I'm like, "Wow, that I really like that." When at the time, I might have just brushed it off as like a bad or just meh kind of photo.
yes, that's so true. Because if you're just looking for, like me, when I'm looking back, I'm looking for that one. But there might be some others that are good too. And I'm looking for just that one picture that I want to use. But yeah, there could be other ones that really are beautiful as well. And, or even have that expression that you can't quite capture, and, or whatever it may be. So I love that idea. Now, and you mentioned selfies, in this day and age, everybody, and literally, I just was walking back from, walking earlier today and exercising. I have a little lake, and I was like, have my little weights, and I was walking around and doing my little exercises. And there was a woman at the pool, and, she was with her picture, like her camera, like taking pictures of herself she was alone at the pool. And my boyfriend commented she must be like on Instagram, because she was like dancing around and whatever. And I didn't see it, but he did. I was like, hey, you just had a fun little show. But what is different about boudoir self photography or self portraits that would be different from documenting on, say, Instagram? And obviously, some people do professional pictures and post them, but I'm talking about like the amateur selfie type of thing.
So I think um, there are some similarities that make them both great. One, they both build confidence in you seeing yourself and you just showing up in a certain way in the world, however that is for you. With boudoir self portrait specifically, the fact that they're this completely solo experience is what makes them very powerful because most of the time in the world, we are always with people, we're observed by people, our behaviors and thoughts and opinions are shaped by how we're raised, who we surround ourselves with, the towns we grow up in. And very few of us actually just take time or ever have the opportunity to just exist completely by ourselves. And self portraits, even if it's, I have 20 minutes, I'm just going to prop my phone up and see what happens. Inherently, that you don't have to show anybody. So you don't have to perform for anybody. And that really gives you a chance to actually get to know yourself outside of who you are to other people.
I love that. And recently, I've been seeing a lot of posts on Instagram where people are doing a posed picture and then a non posed picture. and explaining that social media is not real. When you're posed and you're sucking it in and you're, your stomach looks flat and you're like, you have the exact same at the right angle that makes your face look whatever you're looking for. It's going to be different than when you're relaxed. And so I appreciate that so much because a lot of people get caught up in creating like an ideal life, and life is messy and sex is messy, right? Yeah. So it's important to see messy too. And so do you ever have clients that, want to do something that's a little messier?
Yes, and I encourage the messiness because initially when people are thinking of photos, they're thinking of that kind of frozen final image, and you can end up being very stiff in your body when you're trying to
Mhm.
physically recreate that image. But often the best image is going to come from movement. You are moving and flowing in your body, and it's going to look messy. You're going to capture those blurry images and like the face that you make blinking in half and like mid sneeze. You're going to capture those, and you cannot get to the result that you want without that middle part. You have to go through that to get to the thing that you want. And you have to, if you've never taken a self portrait before, you've never touched a camera before, it's going to look messy. You have to give yourself permission to be bad at something or be new at something. And that applies to self portraits and it applies to sex. You're not going to be like an amazing sex god or goddess or whatever the first time you have sex.
So true. And people do, a lot of times men specifically have performance anxiety, right? Because
Mhm.
they have to perform, they have to get it up. And if you can't get it up, that can be a real issue. And so it can help, it can affect the way that you see yourself, your self-confidence, all of that. And it can affect later on down the line other experiences sexually. Allowing yourself the grace to be messy, to move through those not so beautiful movements to get to the one that you really want. And also to see the beauty in all of those ones that you deem not so beautiful, because I bet that there's really some beauty in those as well.
Exactly. Yeah. You're having an experience. It's not just about that one photo that you capture, it's about the whole experience that you've created for yourself. And even if you end up with no photos or in sex, if nobody has an orgasm, you've still had an experience. And that is valuable in itself.
Yes. I often say that sex is not about the orgasm, but it should be in the mix as a goal. You don't always have to get there, but if you discount the fact that you will never get there, you literally will never get there.
Mhm.
And many women have never experienced an orgasm ever through all of their sexual experiences. And so a lot of this podcast is about teaching people how to communicate with one another to get your needs met, to tell your partner what works for you, and to not be shamed about expressing those feelings or wanting to use that toy that gets you there when you're by yourself. I would think that your clients benefit very much from these self portraits by creating that confidence in themselves physically. And then that could translate to being able to communicate. Give me an example of a client that you've worked with that would transform them. Can you do that?
Of course. Yeah. I had a client who had undergone some surgery and had some previous health issues, and they were reconnecting with their body and figuring out how to be with their body again in this kind of new form and kind of rebuild that trust and that love that they have for themselves. And so the session that we did, a guided self-portrait session together, and it was like an ode to their body. Thank you for being my body. I know that we've gone through some challenging times and I didn't always express love, but just a thank you letter, a visual kind of thank you letter. And afterwards, they expressed that they felt so much closer to themselves and just good. I don't think there's ever a perfect or a final destination in that regard, but they had the experience of feeling safer with themselves.
I love that. And so many people go through surgeries and they're left with scars and cancer and they're left with no breasts or so many different things, right? And recently I had in season 2, I had Annie Temple on the show. And I don't know, are you familiar with her? Because you nodded your head. She was a stripper in her early days, and she's been in the sex industry in some shape or form throughout her whole career. And she recently had a surgery where she had to have her intestines removed, and now she has an ostomy bag. And she just posted today on Instagram. I saw it, and she was posed in a bathing suit or something where you could see her ostomy bag, but it was a sexy picture. And so that just reminds me of what you're saying, an ode to your body. Thank you for helping me to maneuver in this world and to continue living my best life, regardless of whether I have an ostomy bag or no more breasts or no more hair or whatever that may be for you. It's so important to honor your body at all stages of life, not just when you're perfect in your 20s.
Yeah.
So I can see
Exactly.
that this could be a really great way to document and love yourself throughout your whole life. Do you have
Definitely.
recurring clients like that?
I have a course that guides people in creating their own practice because I have what works for me, but it might be different for other people. So I have clients in that course who continue to go back to the methods and create their own self portraits and are using those in their businesses and their journaling methods that they have. So it's really fun to see and just continue to follow their journeys.
I love that. So you're teaching people to create their own pictures and portraits, and that's very cool. It's not just you taking them of them, but you're also
Mhm.
teaching. So that course sounds really interesting. How long is it?
It is currently 9 units, and it's a living course. So I add more demos, more behind the scenes stuff,
Okay.
more content as it goes. But it's currently around 9, and it's self-paced. So
Okay.
however long there's a lot of, like, self-reflection in it. So however long that process takes someone, it could be shorter, it could be longer. So, yeah.
How fun. I love it. Like I said, I've always wanted to take pictures like this. So we're going to have to talk after the podcast for
Yeah.
sure. Are you in menopause, perimenopause, or postmenopause? I have found the absolute best products called Parlor Games. I use the estriol and progesterone topical creams, and they have been game changers. Maybe you've listened to the show and want to be featured as a guest. Eve uses Podmatch to connect with new or potential guests. Reach out and begin the process today. So, when you are photographing somebody as a client, how do you prepare your muse, let's call the person, and what do you do to prepare them for the session?
So the biggest thing is just giving them space to come back into their body and really be in the present moment, not somewhere else thinking about groceries or whatever worries or concerns, but just being very physically present in the body. And so often I'll do a guided breathing exercise, just cleanse whatever we need to cleanse, and then focus on the senses. So I'll guide them through each of the senses and tuning into what can be sensed in the environment. What are the smells? What are the sounds? What do your clothes feel like on your skin? These kinds of questions that we don't often ask ourselves. And yeah, and really actually make you think, oh, okay, what does that feel like? Or how many individual sounds can I pick out around me? And that really just anchors you in to your body and the senses, which ultimately is what we need to do for boudoir because it is a very sensual experience. So just tapping into that sensuality is what's going to give the best results and the best experience.
Amazing. And you're right. It's all a sensual experience. And I'm sure that you create a space of sensuality too. Can you tell me, you mentioned the smells. Can you tell me what it looks like when you walk into a session?
hmm So it can be different for everyone, but I'll guide people to have items that bring out the feeling that they want to tap into. And that could
Okay.
change day to day. If it's a sexual energy, then we'll want things that make them feel that way. Maybe it's candles, maybe it's leather, maybe it's dim
A
lighting,
cross.
maybe it's, yeah, it could be a crop, could be stilettos, could be sneakers, like whatever for each person makes them feel sexy. And music, I think, is always a good one. So I
Yes.
like have a custom playlist for each person.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
yeah, yeah, it's super fun. And then clothing is such a big one because it's literally how you choose to present yourself, even if it's self-portraits or boudoir photos that you aren't going to show anybody. How do you see yourself and what do you see that's sexy in yourself? Could be makeup, no makeup, however you do your hair. Could be lots of clothing, no clothing. So I guide each client through crafting whatever that is for them.
I love that. And you can be as buttoned up as you want to be or completely nude.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
For couples, I could see how this could really enhance their sex lives. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Definitely. So if we are just coming from the perspective of self-portraits that you do on your own, each person is going to be able to connect with themselves more and actually build their own sense of like confidence and self-assuredness. And that allows you to show up in other places with people just more confidently and more honestly for yourself. Self-portraits for me really helped me understand my own feelings and what feels good to me. And then understanding that for yourself helps you learn how to express that to other people. So when you show up with a partner for a sexual experience, you can actually tap into your body and say, actually, this doesn't feel good for me right now. Let's try this. Or I would really love to experience like soft, sensual touching right now. Like you can tap into what that is more easily. And that's key for being able to communicate it with other people.
I love that it helps you to tune into what you need yourself in order to communicate to others because you will never get your needs met if you're not able to communicate your needs to your partner. And a lot of people have such difficulty with expressing themselves. It's almost like a block. I know because I used to have a block myself where I
Same.
literally couldn't, words couldn't come out of my mouth to express how I felt in my early relationships. And so I always talk about communicating with your partner. And I also think that these photographs can be a beautiful gift to your partner. And if you're in a partnered relationship with a man, men are very visual, women are too, but men are specifically very visual. So having something tangible like that to look at can be really hot.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. And even taking photos together, you could have a partnered self-portrait experience or hire a boudoir photographer to take them for you, whatever kind of experience you want to have.
That's true. That's true. And you specialize in self portraits, but I'm sure, do you also do couples as well?
I haven't shot any couples, but
Okay.
I would. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Of
Why
course I
not?
would. That would be so fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, we'll have to connect you with the community that loves to do boudoir
Yes. I'm there.
pictures. Oh, I forgot. I have one more question that I ask my guests, and this is season three. And in season one and two, I was asking my guests what their favorite sex position was, and I got tons of amazing answers. And this season three, I'm asking my what tools do you bring into the bedroom to make it more spicy?
There are lots of great physical tools, of course, but for me, the thing that allows me to make it as spicy as possible are actually the soft skills and building your own sense of self trust and safety within your body and understanding what good, safe, pleasurable feels like for yourself. And then when you're with other people, you know exactly what you want and what you need, and you can communicate that with other people.
I love that. And I love the way that you put that, that you bring your soft skills. And masturbation is one of those soft skills that I think is so essential to really understanding what makes you tick. And if you don't know what makes you tick, how can you expect someone else to figure that out on their own? They can't feel what you're feeling. You have to know how to climax on your own. And so, absolutely, I love that tip. So, thank you so much. So, I want to make sure that my audience, my listeners can find you. So, please let us know where we can find you.
Sure. So I'm very active on Instagram. My handle is by Melissa Claire. And then all my self portrait and self expression work is at the uncensoredself.com. And that's where you can find information about my course and my guided sessions. And then I also have a blog with a lot of just helpful thoughts and resources.
Lovely. So, the uncensoredself.com, make sure you check it out. She is a wealth of information and lots of sexy visuals, I'm sure. So I'd like to just say that you can consider supporting the show. You can go to pleaseme.online and support the show. And I appreciate you being here today with me, Melissa.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, this was so much fun. Until next time, looking for the best live streaming or podcast recording site? Look no further than StreamYard. Get $10 off your first purchase. For podcast hosting, Buzzsprout is the absolute best option out there. Get $20 off your first purchase. Feel free to call me on the OWL app. Use code EH576472 for $10 free to use on the best networking app around. Give me a call. See all links and info in the show notes.